You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event to the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
From the Emek Refine Studios in Jerusalem, Israel, our nation's capital, it's Louis Live. Now here hosts me and Raphael Geller. How you doing, Rafi?
Good. Very big show for us today. Great tournament games last night. Great weekend coming up. Let's talk some sports.
This is just a fantastic time in the world of sports. March Madness, football talk still in the news, and spring training in Major League Baseball.
And NBA.
And, of course, the NBA Association doing their thing as well. We have a jam-packed lineup tonight. We're going to get started right away. Our first guest is a South insider and has also made his name in the internet writing world about sports, And it's a great pleasure to have on Clenari Carter. Clenari, can you hear us out there?
Yes. Thank you for having me on the show this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a lot of fun because your part of the United States is in a lot of sports news right now. Let's get first with the Miami Dolphins chasing Peyton Manning, and then they make a weird decision of getting rid of Brandon Marshall. You'd think they would want to keep him to try to lure Peyton Manning. Why did the Dolphins decide to do that?
Well, I know that 2 days ago, Brandon Marshall and his wife had gotten into a little altercation at a nightclub, and this actually follows up on the heel of that altercation. There's actually a woman from the nightclub that's actually looking to sue Brandon Marshall, saying that Brandon Marshall actually hit her or something like that. So I believe that that's actually following up on that. And the Miami Dolphins actually received $5.8 million in cap space with that trade, along with two third-round draft picks.
Okay, so thank you for that information because I did not know. Yeah, the inside information, that would definitely explain it because when I first saw the headline, I was like, what are they thinking? Well, there's a reason why they're in that position and I'm not. So, okay, that would make sense.
Hi, Clenari. This is Raphael. How you doing?
Hey, Raphael. How you doing, brother?
Good. Listen, so we just want to talk a little more about the Dolphins. Do you still think that the owner, Stephen Ross, will be able to convince Peyton to come without Marshall? I mean, there's not a lot of receivers left now. The defense was very good. They had a very, very good second half. I think they were 7-9 or something like that. They ended off the year really well. Matt Henney, the free agent, has been kind of traveling around. He was in Jacksonville yesterday. So do you think the Dolphins can still get this deal done with Manning, or what do you think?
Well, I believe that at first, if we were talking last week, the Miami Dolphins will probably be in the number one slot regarding Peyton Manning. But there was a very, very interesting move that the Indianapolis Colts made, re-signing Reggie Wayne to a 3-year deal. And if you remember, Reggie Wayne was actually part of the driving force that was looking to get Peyton Manning into the Miami Dolphins. Basically, the Miami Dolphins just went from having Reggie Bush, Brandon Marshall, Reggie Wayne, and Peyton Manning to just having Reggie Bush right now in a matter of 24 hours. So that's very, very interesting.
Right, as you mentioned, I believe that I know Peyton Manning has a house in Southern Florida. I think Reggie Wayne went to Miami for college, of course, and Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne worked out together all the time there. So yeah, that's a very good point. Speaking of the Reggie Wayne signing, can you tell us why you think? I mean, we were hearing the last week that Reggie Wayne was, going to follow Manning to Miami or Denver or Arizona. So, Why did Reggie Wayne decide to stay with the Colts when they've almost released everyone? Joseph Adai, Dallas Clark. I mean, there's Pierre Garcon left. So why do you think Reggie decided to stay with the Colts?
Well, I believe that Reggie Wayne and Peyton Manning, they're very good friends. I believe that Reggie Wayne was interested in following Manning, whether he went to the Arizona Cardinals or whether he was going to the Dolphins. And I don't think that with the two choices left right now, the two top choices right now being Denver and being, the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah,
I don't believe that Reggie Wayne is interested in possibly playing there. And I think Manning, and, between him and Manning, they probably shared a nice little cup of coffee or a nice lunch or something together and sat down. And I think Manning kind of went over his plans with Wayne, and Wayne kind of made his decisions on a personal level.
Okay, so perhaps they potentially could have played together. It looks like they won't, obviously, with Reggie Wayne going to the Colts. Now, I want to still stay in the NFL and move over to the Falcons because you covered them as well. Matt Ryan, a couple years ago, his nickname was Matty Ice, but in the last couple of years, he's not played like that in the playoffs. What can they do exactly, the Falcons? I don't think you can get rid of Matt Ryan. I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl with him. What do you think how the Falcons will deal with Matt Ryan?
Well, I'll tell you this right now. With Matt Ryan, the thing that kept Matty Ice cool was the fact that he was in the pocket and he was getting protection. If you look at the past year, they lost Dahl. And when they lost him last season, that offensive line became something totally different. He was getting pressured in ways that he's never had that type of pressure on him before. So, I think that the issues on the front line is the reason why Matty Ice is kind of melting in the pocket last season.
Okay, so I guess then is that how they're going to approach the draft, to try to give him some more pocket protection, knowing that he's just a different quarterback when he has it?
Well, I would think so, but on top of that, the Atlanta Falcons, they have a couple of different holes right now. They just got them seeing John Abraham is now going to be a free agent. Of course, he's a free agent right now. They just got them losing Eric Weems, their special kick return, punt return man. The guy was phenomenal on special teams. He just went to the Chicago Bears. And you look at the Falcons and you just go, wow, the DBs, that secondary. I think they need to, not only do they need to shore up their offensive line, but that secondary, something has to be said about that. Not only that, but they just got them picking up Lofa Tatupu because they're having contract issues with Curtis Lofton. So if you ask me, unless the Falcons address the defense along with that front line, if they don't do that during the draft or during free agency, they're looking at a lot of trouble coming next season.
Okay, so we're going to put you on the spot now. What do you expect from this team next year? The Saints just signed Marquise Colson, so the Saints are the Saints are getting him back. Do you think? And of course, let's not forget the Panthers are with
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton, he's just going to get better. Yeah. And Tampa Bay just signed someone in free agency, I believe, for 5 years.
Vincent Jackson. They picked up Vincent Jackson and Carl Nix.
So and they have a great young quarterback. So this division suddenly looks very strong from top to bottom. What's your prediction for next year's Falcons team?
Next year's Falcons team is going to be I don't want to say it, but I think we're looking at a downer compared to the last couple of years. The only reason why I say that is because of so many different holes that they do have to cover. Picking up Lofa Tatupu to replace Curtis Lofton, there's a reason why Lofa Tatupu was a free agent last season. He was having so many injury issues, and he just wasn't quite the same. So, he was released. He tried out with a couple of different teams. None of those teams that he tried out with actually signed him. And I don't think he can replace Curtis Lofton. So you have a situation there at the linebacker position. Of course, they were able to to re-sign Harry Douglas yesterday. He is the slot receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, giving them, Julio Jones, Roddy White, Harry Douglas. They still have weapons on the offensive end, but that defense is not going to be the same defense. Not only that, but you're also looking at the offensive line. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of repeating myself, but the Falcons right now, 9-7, 8-8. I hope so, or better. I mean, I really hope so. But I'm looking at a very down year.
And then even then, 9-7, 8-8, probably not good enough to get in the playoffs. I mean, if you look, and the NFC is getting a lot stronger, probably 10 wins, but. We'll see what happens, but I agree with you. I don't think it'll be such a strong year for the Atlanta Falcons. I want to go back to Florida, change sports, talk some hoops, NBA. Now, LeBron James is having an amazing year. Some say it's one of the best ever. We've never had a unanimous MVP voting. We came close with Shaq in 2000. He was one vote shy. That one vote went to 24-year-old Allen Iverson. Could this be the year we get a unanimous MVP? Your thoughts?
I think so. I think some of the guys are going to probably look at the fact that, he doesn't come through in the fourth quarter, blah, 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 blah. I even say that. I even criticize him. I think everybody has to. But besides that, his per-game stats is the best we have possibly seen in NBA history. I know that he's right up there with who was it? Oscar Robertson had a great year like that one year. But this is definitely a year where LeBron James is taking the reins. He's the best player in the NBA, first, second, third quarter, fourth quarter, all the way up to the last 10 seconds. And, hopefully they can figure that out and give Wayne the ball, 10 seconds left, and let him do his thing.
Okay, we've covered Atlanta and Miami. I just kind of want to talk about, since you're a South correspondent, I kind of want to touch up on a team that's really been struggling, the Bobcats, who are under the leadership and ownership, of Michael Jordan. Can you just tell us what you think's wrong there? They're having, maybe at the end of the year, it could be one of the worst seasons in NBA history. And yeah, you look at their team; they have a couple of talented players. They're very young. What do you think the problem is in Charlotte, and how do you think they can get better in the coming years?
I think, for one thing, they need to create some type of a nucleus. Every time they seem to put something together, they break it apart. Right. Year after year, it's a brand new team. And you cannot form a good playoff caliber team if you keep on moving parts around like that. That's not very good. I think that with the young guys, they have Kemba Walker, who I think can come into his own. He's been playing decent. He's been playing very well as a rookie, along with Bismack Biyombo. This guy, I like him. He kind of reminds me of Serge Ibaka out there in Oklahoma City. Yeah. So I like the young pieces that they have, but they need to go on ahead, figure out a nucleus, and not only that, it seems like they're just kind of all over the place as far as that team goes. So I mean, once they could figure out who they are and create an identity, hopefully Michael Jordan could do that for them. His basketball decisions on Michael Jordan has been kind of sketchy. If you remember his first basketball decision,
Kwame Brown.
I believe
Kwame Brown. Right.
Sorry about that. Was Kwame Brown.
Right.
Oh yeah, anyone who's a fan of the Washington Wizards remembers that number 1 overall pick. that was a tough one. Same draft as actually Gilbert Arenas was in that draft. He was second round pick. That wasn't the greatest draft, but Kwame Brown number 1, not the best decision in
He's
NBA
playing
draft
another
history.
series, isn't he? Or he was, or he is.
Who knows with Kwame? But okay, let's ask you this. Let's put you on the spot. What are the chances of Michael Jordan coming back and playing? Okay, no, that's just a joke. Okay,
yeah, all right.
Hopefully he's finally done. It's 0%. Not at the 99,
no Brett Favre.
no 50, no Brett Favre. Hopefully he's all done out there.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you, the Hawks sometimes are not in Atlanta. I would say. I don't know if to say they're sure, but they're kind of behind the Braves and the Falcons. Not a lot of exposure. What are your thoughts, though, about the Hawks this season? I know they have not made it to an NBA Finals, I think, ever. So It's not like the best tradition. But what are your thoughts about the Hawks season this year?
Well, I will say on the finals note, they haven't made the finals in Atlanta. They did in St. Louis.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. But this year, as I look at them, I see a team that is feisty, to be honest with you, because they have some injuries, and these injuries are significant. Not only are they significant, but they lost their sixth man in Jamal Crawford from last season. So with these guys still being able to be 24 and 18, they should actually be 18 and 24. So, I mean, seriously, if you look at them. But losing Al Horford, that's an all-star center in the middle. And then, Joe Johnson, he missed a few games. They went older. They got Tracy McGrady, Jerry Stackhouse, Radmanovich. They cannot replace Jamal Crawford's production. So between Al Horford and Jamal Crawford not being there, you're looking at over 30 points missing from off of this Hawks team, and they're still 24 and 18. I know since the All-Star break, they've actually kind of fell apart a little bit. Over their last 10 games, they're, 5-5. So I don't see them being a championship contender at all by any means, but they're feisty and they will be in the playoffs.
Okay, let's stay in Atlanta, switch it now to baseball. The Braves last year had that disastrous ending. I have a partner in broadcast that's a fan of the Braves and the Red Sox, so that was a very tough season for them last year.
Wow.
How do the Braves recover? They're in spring training right now. Have the players talked about it, or they just want to put that out of their memory and just move on this year?
I think they want to try to put that out of their memory and move on this year. I know that when they received, Freddie Gonzalez right now is the manager, and when he took over, they thought that they were going to be, a little bit more active and a little bit more aggressive around the bases. Unfortunately, that did not happen last year, as they were ranked 29th in the major leagues in batting average. They were 26th on base percentage. They were 27th on base plus slugging percentage. This is not a good offensive team at all whatsoever. Their pitching, of course, they have one of the best farmhouses in the league. So, with their pitching, they're going to always be in the top. It's the offense that they have to actually be worried about. And I don't believe they've gotten a stolen base or spring training yet. So I think that they're the opposite of what they thought they would be.
We're on right now with Clenary Carter, our South Insider. We're talking about Braves baseball. Do you think, this is a question that kind of comes up every year before the start of the season in Atlanta, does Chipper Jones have another all-star season left in him?
I believe Chipper Jones he might have one more, but I think that this is the tail end of his career right now. I know the other day he was joking around about being injured and had all of the local fans kind of worried a little bit, but I'm glad that he came out and said that, hey, I'm just playing around a little bit. Hey, I'm ready to go for the season. But as far as him being all-star caliber, it's kind of, let's say, it's more likely not to actually see that type of Chipper Jones again.
I heard a story, I believe it was a few weeks ago, that they asked Chipper Jones if he ever took steroids, and I think he said he was somewhat tempted but didn't, and later his father told him, had I found your name on the list, that would have devastated me, it would have been the worst thing. So with all of that, and his numbers anyway are probably first ballot Hall of Famer, but when you consider he did it clean in the steroid era, he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah. I don't know about first ballot, but I know that he is a Hall of Fame player. I know that. He's had a tremendous season. I mean, he's had a tremendous career here in Atlanta. They love him out here, and I think that he is possibly, put ahead Andrew Jones. They've had several different players since then, but Chipper Jones is the Atlanta Braves. He is the Brave. So hey, I give him all of the respect in the world.
Okay, now we're going to shift down to our new they're not a new team, but the Miami Marlins now, not the Florida Marlins, who got the new stadium, got Jose Reyes, got another couple other players. were in the sweepstakes for Pujols for a while until he signed, of course, with the Angels. But there's a lot of hype about this team in Florida because they have great pitching. Josh Johnson. Last year, I think they finished 500 or a couple games under 500. And this year, they've just added a lot of players. They added, as I mentioned, Jose Reyes. What do you look for in their record or their potential this year? Do you think they can go from that 80 wins to 100 maybe?
I like their new attitude right now. I mean, they have the new manager, Ozzie Guillen. I don't know if you guys saw Ozzie Guillen yesterday. He had somewhat of a fit.
Ozzie
It
Guillen
was a
having
little
a fit?
bit funny. It was between him and who was it, Bobby Valentine. That was kind of funny. But I think that the Miami Marlins, and I like the new name because it means that the fans in Miami feel as though they can take ownership of the Marlins now instead of it being called the Florida Marlins, And so I think that's going to actually attract the fans to actually come to the stadium and actually sit down because they've been having problems with attendance in Miami for a while. So I think this whole new attitude, this new team, they got brand new uniforms and everything. So I think that this is going to be awesome for them. Not only that, but having Jose Reyes, Hanley Ramirez, and Omar Infante, this is going to actually keep their offense should be pretty good. And Zambrano, he's pitched pretty well. Yesterday, I believe he pitched 4 innings and struck out 5 batters against the Braves. So I like the Miami Marlins right now.
What do you think of those crazy new hats and uniforms that they've been showing off the last couple of weeks?
I like them because I see what they're doing. It's like they're just kind of changing the franchise around. They're trying to pump life into Miami. They're kind of trying to follow up on the Miami Heat, it seems like to me. As far as making all the different changes and, things like that. It seems like they're more serious now. I like the uniforms. I like it. I'll be honest with you. I like it.
It's interesting because the Florida Marlins didn't have the worst history because they won 2 World Series titles, but outside of those 2 years, not such a good history. So I see what you're saying, that you kind of have to start over, and they're showing that with the new name, the new uniforms, the new hats, and new stadium, new players, and I think that's the direction they got to go to move forward. Now, a couple more questions with you. I want to talk about the NCAA tournament because these play-in games are really fascinating. Amazing. Last night, you had Western Kentucky, BYU have amazing comebacks, over 20 points, and they come back. Do you like this expanded format of having 68 teams, or do you think they need to add more teams, or did you like it when it was 64 and just one play-in game? What are your thoughts?
I like it. The reason why I like it is because, first of all, I was skeptical because of the whole 16 versus 1. I mean, 16 never beats a 1. So I was like, why would they do this? I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But after watching last night and watching those 2 games looked like NCAA tournament games. They didn't look like 2 16 teams out there, just kind of laggy-gagging around with no talent. They look like 4 games. I mean, they look like 4 teams that are taking the NCAA tournament very seriously. BYU, I believe, was down by 18 or something like that, and came back. So I like it. I like it when people kind of prove me wrong. And the tournament, yesterday kind of proved me wrong. So that's why I'm giving them 2 thumbs up.
Speaking of BYU, actually, I think it was something like 25 points, or it was something right. Do you think that maybe Mitt Romney is lending some love to this BYU team, some Mormon love, and helping them out? Because that people say, I mean, obviously it was 2 12 seeds, so it wasn't really like such a amazing game. But people say it might be one of the greatest comebacks in NCAA history.
Yeah. They had more than just a couple prayers answered yesterday. That was tremendous. I was looking. I said, I mean, I thought it was over. I believe I was talking to Raphael, and I was getting ready for classes or whatnot, and And I looked down and I was like, what in the hell? Okay, BYU. All right.
Right.
And in the first half, I thought it was over.
Yeah.
And for me to come back and look and see that they won, Mitt Romney shared a little bit of love yesterday.
Right, and the funny part is Mitt Romney actually lost his primaries last night, so maybe he was shifting some of his power to his BYU team so that they could win, because he actually lost 2 primaries last night to Santorum. But okay, so we have a couple minutes left, so we're just going to finish it off with talking NCAA brackets. Tell us, who's in your Final Four?
Well, my Final Four, honestly, I have Kentucky, because you have to go Kentucky. Their team is deep. I love them. Matter of fact, Kentucky has probably been my favorite the whole season. The reason why I like them is because of they have this freshman by the name of Anthony Davis.
And the
guy
I love him.
Is a flat-out baller.
Yeah.
I like him. Also, I like Syracuse, but after seeing Fab Melo, he's very he's disappointed as far as not being eligible for the NCAA tournament. So I'm going with Ohio State, and then I'm looking at Missouri and Kansas.
Again, everybody has Missouri.
Mizzou.
We did a show. We did a show last night, and 4 people, of course, two.
ESPN, Dan Shulman.
Dan Shulman from ESPN had Missouri, as well as our college basketball insider Ari Louis. So something is with Mizzou. I guess that 2 seed is not.
You picked
correct.
Mizzou, right, Ari?
I had Missouri also in the Final Four.
Okay.
All right, we're going to let you go, but before we do, please tell our audience how they can find out more about you, more about your work and your presence in the world of sports.
Okay, if you can go to Twitter and look at JMC Sportsbook, that will be where you can actually find me. I try to post as much of my writings as possible. I do contributions for, Yahoo Sports. Not only do I do contributions for Yahoo Sports, there's also a great newspaper out here in the Atlanta area that comes from out of Stone Mountain, and it's called Our Town News. So I write for both of those for both of those sites. Not only that, but I do have my blog, and my blog, of course, is www.jmcsportsbook.blogspot.com, and you can go on ahead and find me there. And anything that you guys want to go on ahead and talk about, you guys have any questions or anything like that out there, go on ahead, hit me up. I love responding. I love talking to the fans. I love it. Matter of fact, I had an older brother who won a national championship with the University of Washington, and I believe that was, 93, I want to say, 1993. It could be 91. I'm so confused right now. But, so I do have a great sports background. Also, I have a cousin by the name of Dean Garrett, who played for the Indiana Hoosiers for Bob Knight and won a national championship there. So I've been watching sports, and I've been birthed into the sports realm since the day of a little child. So anybody wants to come through, talk sports, come on, let's do it. I love it.
All right, that's great. And everyone should go out there and do that, and we certainly appreciate the time in this program. We would love to have you back whenever, of course, you're available. And, again, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Clint Arcari, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. So we'll keep track of your predictions of the Final Four. We have you on record. We'll hold you to it, and we'll see what happens. All right, man. Be well. All the best.
Have a good day.
All right, you good. You guys too, and thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everyone. All right, good stuff. We talked a lot there in that segment, and I'll tell you, the thing I noticed the most, or that had the biggest impression on me, was he thinks LeBron James is going to win this MVP unanimously. Again, that's never happened. It was close once with Shaq in 2000. Never happened. Jordan won 5 MVPs, not unanimous. It's never happened in the NBA. It's happened in Major League Baseball a few times. Barry Bonds in 2002 won it unanimously, for example. It's happened Cy Young, not happened in the NBA MVP. I don't know if it's happened in the NFL MVP, but it just, that would really, I don't know. I'm a big MVP history buff. I follow it. I know from 1984 on, I can tell you the MVPs and the names and all that kind of stuff. So that really stuck out to me more than anything else.
Yeah, honestly, you look at LeBron. He's 6'8", 6'9" guy. He scores the ball. He rebounds the ball. And really the thing that I think is going to get him the MVP is his passing abilities. He averages over 7 assists a game, or 6 points something assists per game, and that's a point guard numbers. Anywhere from 6 to 10 assists a game is very good. And he's not the point guard in this team. He's a forward, so to be able to rebound and to be able to score and to be able to pass, and as we've talked about on the show a couple of times, he's really improved his post game with the help of Hakeem Olajuwon this summer. So he's really, he's unstoppable right now. Kevin Durant having a great year, but his passing numbers are not there. Kobe's shooting the ball 7 million times a game. Also really not pass. He has no one really to pass to. We've talked about how there's the role players having down years. So right now, there's really no competition, in my opinion. I think
he'll definitely win it. There's no question he'll win it. That'll be his third MVP, and he is. He was born in December of '84.
Yeah.
Do the quick math on that. So in this December, he'll be turning 26. 28. Sorry, 28. Sorry about that.
26 plus 2.
So
right.
at 27 years old, have 3 MVPs.
Wow.
So, that really says right there.
But what is he missing, Ari Louis?
Of course, the title. But Jordan did not win his first championship until he was 27.
Exactly. It's true. This could be the year.
This definitely could be. I mean, this is his best team on paper that he's ever played with.
Norris Cole, great addition, rookie. Right.
The season, by the way, Clint Hardy was referred to Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson one season averaged a triple-double. So LeBron James not going to get to that year. And by the way, again, Oscar Robertson didn't win the MVP unanimously even in that year. So just to give you an idea of where that is at and winning it, getting all the votes of the writers. Again, I'll tell you, though, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to be surprised if he wins it unanimously because you might have one writer once they can name for himself.
Some Kobe Love.
Well,
some Durant. I mean, because you have the writers from all parts of the country, so you'd think the LA guys will give Kobe love. The Midwest guys, or Central, the Texas guys will give Durant love. So I think it's going to be a great run. You never know. Maybe if Derrick Rose picks up his game, they're first in the East Coast, in the Eastern Conference. So he can
get some votes. He's the reigning MVP.
Right.
Also keep in mind when you're talking about the MVP and voting, these voters want to make names for themselves. And Fred Jackson, I call the Fred Jackson rule. I know his name because he voted for Allen Iverson in 2000 because he wanted to be the one guy who didn't vote for Shaq and cost him the unanimous vote and get his name out there. And, he was interviewed on CNN about it, and I think eventually got a job with CNN. It's a way to make your name for yourself.
Exactly.
It worked the way you wanted. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, a Israel Sports Radio favorite, Jasmine Marcus, will discuss March Madness for about a half an hour. So get tuned, get set up. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's on the other side. You're listening to Louis Live and IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff, and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Talpiot, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Hi, Jasmine, are you there?
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Just want to let you know you're live on the air, so you're on Louis Live, and we're speaking with Jasmine Marcus, who, of course, hosted the great show last year, Jump Shots with Jasmine, and certainly a college basketball expert. We want to break down the Final Four, and first question for you regarding Syracuse. They lose Melo, so what are your thoughts about that? I mean, I talked about it yesterday's show. They had dots on their name, basically, because of what happened with Bernie Fine and the other scandal. Now you have this. They're the number one seed, but is that going to trip them up and potentially have them lose in the first or second round?
Well, I think there's no way they're going to lose in the first round. I originally had them winning the whole thing. So yesterday I was scrambling to change around my bracket, and I think now I have them losing in either the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. But I think that having a big man that you can count on is crucial in the tournament. And having this happen to them just 2 days before, when they're already traveling to Pittsburgh, I believe it is, they're not really going to get a chance to practice without Fab. They've kind of had a lot going on, as you said, mentally to deal with all season. I think this could be kind of just too much for them.
Hey, Jasmine.
I think they're going to make it, but not as far as they would have with him.
Sorry for interrupting you. Hey, Jasmine, this is Raphael. It's a pleasure to finally kind of meet you on air and talk to you about some
nice to meet you too.
College hoops. You want to talk about an ex-Cornell player who just made a little impact in the NBA. So can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so my friend Jeff Foote, who played for a few months in Tel Aviv last year, this year he was in Poland at the beginning of the year, and then he left after a few weeks there to go to the D League. And he just got called up last week to the New Orleans Hornets. So he never actually went to New Orleans at first. He flew straight to their game in Denver. He played 2 road games with them without practicing, without knowing their plays. I think he met the coach of the Hornets on the way to the game. So he had kind of an interesting start there. And I think you can look it up. He played, I think, 20-something minutes in his first game. He got 4 points, so he had a pretty decent start to the NBA career. And then he's had a game or two since then when he hasn't played a whole lot. But we're hoping he'll play a bit more this weekend. The Hornets are coming to play the Nets in Newark, so a whole bunch of us from Cornell are going to go see him Saturday night and support him. So we're hoping he gets some more minutes then, and it'll be pretty fun, I think, to see him finally make it in the NBA.
Right, and that's great. I remember when he was here in Tel Aviv, and he got a lot of criticism from the fans, and it didn't really work out. And Eurobasket just wrote an article talking about how maybe Maccabi missed out on him. They should have given more time to develop and given him a chance, because now he's in the NBA, and he's doing a good job so far. Also, since you went to Cornell, as everyone knows, can you tell us where Ryan Whitman is playing basketball right now, or is he playing basketball? What's going on with him these days?
He was released from his contract with the team in Poland, and then I think he sort of just had enough of playing in Europe, and he went back to his home state of Minnesota, and now he's working for Morgan Stanley there.
Okay, so his basketball career is on hold right now.
His basketball career seems pretty over at this point.
Well, it was great watching him in the tournament. He was an amazing player. Of course, his dad has been an NBA coach, and now he's an assistant coach, so he had that in his genes. But let's look at this bracket, shall we? What do you think? We got this last night. Let's talk about last night's game first. We had a amazing round last night. People were kind of knocking the new format. And what do you know? Western Kentucky's down by 16 with 4 minutes left. They were the only team in the NCAA tournament that had an under 500 record. They switched coaches in the middle of the year, yada, 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 and they come back and they win the game. And you think, okay, that's pretty cool. No game can top that off. Then you have the next game where BYU is down, 25 points in the first half, and they come back and win. So what are your thoughts on this, the new format and on the games last night that some people are saying were the best comebacks in NCAA tournament history?
Yeah, I agree. I think the tournament, it just does things to you mentally, and I think some of the teams that were out on top, you could say the pressure kind of got to them and maybe destroyed them a little bit, and I think both teams, BYU that were down, maybe just in the tournament, it's like you never give up, because if you don't win, that's it. And, my boyfriend is getting into coaching right now, so I said to him, those are 2 games that when you're a head coach, you're going to need to make the kids you're coaching watch those games, because those games show you can be down 15, 20, 25 points and still win. So it shows you never give up in a game, because you always have a chance. Right,
and your boyfriend played here in Ashkelon last year, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he did.
So you're really connected to all the Cornell guys, and you know what's going on. You're a Cornell insider with all these guys playing pro ball right now, or assisting. Or I guess there's one playing pro ball, one who's an assistant now, and one who left basketball. So that's pretty cool to think about. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, so let's look more. Let's actually examine some of the big games coming up. But we have this kind of interesting game. We'll kind of talk about it because you're Ivy League, obviously. We got the Harvard and Vanderbilt game, the 12-5 game. Vanderbilt's kind of riding high, just beating Kentucky. They have great shooters. They have a great inside game. Really good coach in Kevin Stallings. We know about Harvard, first time in the NCAA tournament. What are you looking for in this game? Do you think Harvard can pull it off? Will Jeremy Lin give some power to his fellow Harvard players? What do you think?
I think that one thing we've seen in the tournament is that experience really means a lot, and I think that Harvard's never been to the tournament. This is like a very historic thing. I think they might almost be like too excited for this game to happen, and I'm not sure that they can pull it off. What I thought was interesting was that every year they do the brackets on ESPN with Obama, and back 2 years ago when Cornell made it to the Sweet 16, he actually had us winning a game in the tournament.
Wow.
And he went to Harvard for law school, so this morning everyone thought he'd have Harvard at least going, to the Sweet 16. He didn't even have them beating Vanderbilt. He said, I don't think they can do it.
Wow.
So,
tough love.
I think that was pretty funny.
Right.
But I think in a lot of conferences, people tend to kind of root for whoever is still left in the conference. And for whatever reason, Cornell has just been Harvard's biggest rival in basketball. So I personally am not looking to see them win the game. And Vanderbilt, I think, always kind of gets overlooked. Everyone kind of counts on them to lose their first game in the tournament. They do it every year. But I think this is the best Vanderbilt team we've seen in a while. As you said, they just did beat Kentucky, and I think they're going to beat Harvard and maybe make it a round or two further.
Right, as you were talking about President Obama, he was actually at the game last night with the British Prime Minister, David Cameron. So that was kind of weird, like seeing a British Prime Minister at an NCAA tournament game. Obama later said that he was explaining him the rules and that Cameron joked that Obama was going to help him fill out his bracket. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But,
and he said he'd never been to a basketball game ever before.
Right, it's not really big in England. They don't really, the game's not developed that much there. But okay, so let's move on to another interesting game. At least in my opinion, everyone's kind of knocking me on this, but I look at this Detroit-Kansas game. I played a lot of basketball with Ray McCallum. We lived in the same area. Eli Holman is a former Indiana University player, transferred after the whole Calvin Sampson. I think I don't know why they were given a 15 seed. I thought they'd get something like 13, 14. This team's very talented, 2 NBA players, at least 1 NBA player in McCallum, who actually got recruited by Kansas. Do you think Detroit can pull this off? Will someone believe me, or what do you think?
I don't know. This is a 15-2 game.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that upsets can really happen when you get that far apart. But, I mean, as you're saying, this NBA players, I guess this is as good a chance as ever. But I don't know. I think you're a little crazy. I have to agree with everyone on that.
Well, if you think I'm a little crazy, then you have to listen to this next one that Ari Louis predicted. Why don't you tell her, Ari?
I have Duke losing to Lehigh. I think they're overranked at 2, and Duke usually gets a higher seed than they deserve. And I don't think they're going to pay attention to them, and they're going to lose. I wrote that down in my bracket. That's official.
I say it could be a game that's closer than we think, maybe for the first half. But I think if it is even close at halftime, Coach K is going to give it to them in the locker room, and they're going to come back and win by 10 or 15 at least.
At least I do have Harvard winning. I have them beating Vanderbilt. I have a couple of upsets. I have Montana upsetting as well, so I have 12-13 in the second round in the East bracket. But definitely Duke is my highest seed to go down, at least early. But basically, do you think that which of these brackets do you think is the toughest bracket that has the best teams in it?
Okay, I don't have it in front of me, but I know I was thinking that the easiest bracket is probably the one that North Carolina is in, as I recall from setting things up. I didn't really see a clear challenger to them. And let's see. I think the hardest one could be the one that Kentucky is in, because you have who's the 2 in that bracket?
Which bracket were we talking about?
The Kentucky.
In the Kentucky one, it is. I believe Duke.
Oh, okay. So that's where Duke is in. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. It's just hard. I don't have it in front of me, and every time I look at my bracket, I end up rewriting the whole thing. So sometimes I lock it in. But
okay.
Yeah, I think North Carolina is definitely the easiest.
Okay, cool. Let's actually, you know what? Let's give you. What do you think? What is a game that's really intriguing to you? That's could be a potential upset or a mid-major that can sneak into possibly the Elite Eight or at least the Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm. I think one game I'm interested in watching. I don't know if it will necessarily be an upset, but I'm curious to see what VCU does this year, because they do have a pretty low seed. But last year ended up kind of making it above and beyond everyone's expectations. I'm wondering if they could kind of be this year's Butler, where they kind of just do it, like, kill people's expectations 2 years in a row, and whether they're going to have any momentum riding on this, or they could flame out in the first round. So I think I'm looking to see kind of how they are doing.
Okay, and we have. I'm a big Indiana guy because I lived there for a bit. We have Indiana kind of has this interesting potential schedule. They play New Mexico State in the first game, and then if they win, they actually play the game team you were just talking about, VCU and Wichita State. So they have a potential I'm getting so confused with now the first round and set. They have a potential third round matchup with VCU, and if they win that, they can meet Kentucky again in the Sweet 16, which I know would be a treat for every college basketball fan, especially after the insane game at Assembly Hall. My question for you is: do you think IU has the magic to beat Kentucky again, not in Assembly Hall, in a neutral site? Verdell Jones is starting guard, just tore his ACL for Indiana. Kentucky's playing really well besides the loss to Vanderbilt. What do you think?
Yeah, I have Kentucky going very far in my bracket, and I'm kind of rethinking it a little bit just because I've seen Kentucky. Especially, I remember in 2010 after they beat Cornell, and everyone was like, "Wow, they're a really great team." They had that whole starting lineup went to the NBA, and then they lost the very next game. So I wonder if sometimes the players are kind of by the end of the tournament are just so focused on those teams, on what's next, and making it to the NBA that they almost, I don't want to say they don't care, but it's not as high a priority for them almost to make it as far in the tournament as they can. So I think if they do end up facing Indiana, that could potentially be a game that Indiana could win, because I'm just not sure if I see Kentucky going incredibly far.
Right. And,
incredibly far, meaning I don't know if I see them winning as many people have them.
Yeah, that's kind of been the knock the last couple of years as Calipari gets these guys. They're all by far the most talented in the country. But they're just going to leave. And, Terrence Jones kind of surprised the whole country last year, along with Sullinger and Perry Jones, 3 guys who were supposed to be lottery picks that said we're going to come back. So let's talk more about this Ohio State team led by Jared Sullinger. They have Deshaun Thomas. They have so many great players. What do you think? What do you expect of them? They're a 2 seed. They're in the same same region as Syracuse, who's the number 1 seed. It's kind of a weird region. You got Florida State, who's good, who's very good. They played well recently, but they're kind of inconsistent. Wisconsin, who's also inconsistent. Kansas State. It's really a kind of inconsistent region. And Ohio State kind of has, besides looking at the bracket, besides maybe a potential Sweet 16 matchup with Florida State, they should make it to the Sweet 16 no problem. And maybe the Final Four. What are you expecting from this Ohio State team?
Yeah, I think that I actually rewrote them to making it to the Final Four after I switched things around with Syracuse. Right. And I think, they just did well in the Big Ten. I think that they've been inconsistent, but they're kind of coming into the tournament on a high note. And they've had some success in the tournament in recent years. And, I agree that they're going to be a team that could definitely make it, to the Final Four. And if not, at least to the Elite Eight. I think that they are going to do well in their bracket.
Okay, this is...
Yeah, I'm not so hype on Florida State. They've lost to some horrible teams, won against great teams. I think that they could get out in an early round just because they seem to play to their competition. So they could just kind of have a bad game against a low seed, and just that'll be it.
Right, and in my opinion, this is the most interesting game that I'm about to say. UConn against Iowa State, the 8 and 9 game. UConn. We've had so many people on the show last month, including me, who have all, flat out said UConn's been by far the most disappointing team of the year. They've Andre Drummond, Ryan Boatwright, Lamb, Napier. This team is so talented. Really, all they lost was, well, not all. They lost Kemba Walker, obviously, who was a great player, but they got Drummond, who people are saying could maybe even be higher than Anthony Davis in the draft. Who knows? But what's going on with this UConn team? Calhoun's back after he had his back surgery. This Iowa State team is led by Fred Hoiberg, ex-Minnesota Timberwolves player, and they have Royce White from Minnesota, who is supposed to be a star in Minnesota but stole a laptop, and we don't really know what happened there. This game is really intriguing. Who do you think is going to win?
Yeah, I have UConn just because I So after last year, I just cannot see them losing in the first round. Like you said, the team isn't drastically different. But I also predicted them as going further in the Big East tournament. And, yeah, they're kind of not meeting expectations at this point in the season. And they do have a fairly low seed. And, yeah, I have them winning, but I won't be shocked if they lose the game.
Okay, cool. So can you tell us who you think is going to win the national championship?
Oh, man. Okay, I think before just talking to you and rethinking Kentucky, I think I had it as Kentucky. I'm thinking I could end up changing to North Carolina just because they do have a lot of experienced older players. And I think that's something that is very important when it comes to March Madness.
Yeah, can you maybe talk a little bit more about this North Carolina team and why they started off the season, I think number 2 or right after Kentucky. They lost to Kentucky. They've had a good season, but they did have that crazy game where they lost to Florida State by over 25, 30 points. What do you like about this North Carolina team? Besides, you just said the experience, but can you tell us more specifically?
Yeah, I almost think that having a really bad loss can be a good thing for some of these teams because it shows them what can happen if they aren't as focused as they should be. And I think it can serve as a wake-up call almost. And like I said, I really do think that having experienced older players is what makes the team go very far at this point in the season. And, you know, besides that one bad loss, they've had a lot of great wins. And I don't know, I just like the way they've been playing, and I think that, you know, it's hard to pick. There's something I don't like about each of these teams almost. There isn't, like, a very clear-cut team that I know will win. And at this point, I think they're just kind of looking as, you know, they have the least not like, going wrong for them almost at this point.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit, we're gonna have to go in a couple minutes, but can you tell us maybe since, you know, you have the whole Ivy League, can you give us some inside scoop on this Harvard team and maybe why they could beat Vanderbilt?
Why they could beat Vanderbilt?
Yeah, like
I think that, you know, Cornell obviously made it to the Sweet 16, and I think that part of that was because people see the Ivy League team that gets in and tend to overlook them. And so it could be something where Vanderbilt says, hey, we just beat Kentucky. We've been having the greatest season we've had in years. Harvard's never made the tournament before. You know, we've got this. So I think it could get overlooked. And I think Harvard, you know, you can't deny that I think this is the strongest the Ivy League has been almost this year.
Right.
And the only losses in league that Harvard had were 2 very good losses. And they're coming off a very strong end of the season. And I think they're ready for this, especially when people tend to not be picking you. It kind of lights a fire underneath you, and I think they're going to be out to prove something. And they're also, you know, they're riding on this good buzz from Jeremy Lin, Harvard, getting a lot of basketball talk right now, and they could go against my expectations. I think I won't be shocked, like I said, if they do beat Vanderbilt.
Speaking of the Ivy League,
excuse for that.
Speaking of the Ivy League, I think Pennsylvania has a star guard who's Jewish. Do you know who I'm talking about, possibly?
Yeah, Zach Rosen. Definitely, yeah, Zach Rosen. And I've heard that there could potentially even be NBA teams looking at him.
Wow.
Because he's a very similar player to Jeremy Lin, and teams that would have been like, oh, he's from Penn, might be like, oh, but Jeremy Lin, who's a very similar player from Harvard, is having this great season. And he could get some potential looks. And if not, I don't personally know him, but I spoke to a teammate of his last year on my show who I think said that he would be exploring options in Israel.
That'd be great to have him. I'm sure, as usual, Maccabi would probably be the first one to sign him, give him the most money and all that. Okay, so the last question we have for you, can you tell us a player to look out for in this tournament, a player that not everyone knows, a kind of under-the-radar guy, someone who you really think can explode on the scene, maybe help his stock for the draft, and maybe not even that, just kind of show America what he's worth and most people don't know about him?
I'm not sure if I if I have an example off the top of my head for that.
Well, maybe a team then?
I think if Con does win, it's going to really help Jeremy Lamb a lot.
Okay.
But I don't know if I know of an underrated player who I have in mind to answer this question right now.
Okay, yeah, no, didn't mean to put you on the spot. Even a team maybe. I know we know you're not looking at the bracket, but a team that could, an under the radar team maybe, over a 8 seed or 6, 7. Or I guess you don't have the bracket, but just someone you can off the top of your head just think of that you like.
After last night, I really liked BYU. I think they played horribly in the first half, and then I think something just kind of like switched on and made them realize like this is a tournament, this is something serious, and they had a lot of success there last year. And of course, they don't have Jimmer, but I mean, I think I also heard actually that they were underseeded a tiny bit because I guess they can't play on Sunday.
Right.
So they had site that had, the Friday, what is it, Thursday, Saturday game?
Thursday, Saturday, right.
So they could be kind of playing a little bit underseeded. I think that, yesterday kind of set something off in them. So I think that they could potentially make it very far for a 14 seed, maybe Sweet 16 or somewhere around there.
All right, Jasmine, we're going to let you go, but before we do, it's very, very important. It's crucial that I tell you Garrett Levenbrook says hi, so I want to pass that on to you.
Okay, great. I also have to tell you that I'm pretty sure Cornell's part of the schedule for next year got released, and I think that they're playing Arizona State.
Ooh.
So we're going to have big rivalry week next year.
We probably have no chance, but okay. We'll have to. We'll put some side bet like the Mariners do when their teams are in the Super Bowl. We'll come up with something. Jasmine, before we let you go, is there a way people could follow you on Twitter? I mean, I don't want any stalkers or weird people, but if you don't mind, if you want to, you can give out your Twitter name so people can follow what you're writing about.
Yeah, it's Jazz, like the beginning of my name, Jas Marcus.
Okay, simple enough.
Yeah.
All right, Jasmine, we appreciate the time. We're going to try to have you on sometime in the tournament, maybe next week or the week after, discuss the Sweet 16 and the Final Four. And we had Ari Louis on yesterday, so it'll be fun to have you guys back to back again. Jasmine, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Enjoy the games, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thanks. Bye, guys.
All right, be well.
Bye.
That was Jasmine Marcus. Of course, she hosts the show Jump Shots with Jasmine last year. Went to Cornell and gave us her breakdown of the NCAA tournament. Likes Carolina. I have Carolina winning the whole thing as well. Do you also, Rafa?
I'm not going to lie. I've not filled out my bracket yet.
Okay.
I'm going to do that later. I don't have North Carolina, though. I'll tell you that.
Now, I did this last night, this bracket. I just called Ari Louis bracket. I didn't join a group. Last year, we had a whole Israel sports radio thing, but I just didn't have the energy this time.
Mizzou in the finals. I like it.
Yeah, I have Mizzou because everyone kept having Missouri in the Final Four, and I was thinking, I think they would have the ability to beat Kentucky, so I just feel like they're underrated. I don't like the idea of having 3 number ones in the Final Four, so I took Florida State to beat Syracuse. Of course, this was before the whole Melo thing, and the way I have it, Syracuse seems to have a pretty easy walk to the Elite Eight. They have a 16 seed. Then they have an 8 or a 9. They could stub their toe in the 8, trip up there. But if they get past that seed, I think, and again, because I have Harvard beating Vanderbilt, I have Wisconsin losing, and Syracuse just has to beat a 12 or a 13, probably a 13 in Montana. So the way I have it, in my bracket, they're beating a 16, an 8, and a 13 to get to the Elite Eight. But I think that Melo thing is going to hurt them. They're not 100%. They don't have the full roster.
Right.
And there's only so many lives a cat can have, and so many lives an Orangeman can have. And this is the 3rd scandal this year. I think it's a little too much for the Syracuse Orangemen. Okay, we're going to take a break. On the other side from the Washington Examiner, Jim Williams. You're listening to Louis Live on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff,
and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Tapio, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Schutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Terry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.israelgym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. Book your party today. That's DJ Venom.
Broadcasting live from Israel.
IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Back here on Louis Live, thanks to Jasmine Marcus, originally from the Cornell Sun, of course, Jump Shots with Jasmine, and that was just a lot of fun talking about NCAA bracket. Well, we're going to, as you hear it ringing, we're going to dial Jim Williams, get him up and talk sports in general, not just college basketball, other things going on.
Hello.
Hi, Jim. This is Ari Louis. You're on Louis Live. How you doing out there?
I'm fine. I need to take 1 second, and I'll be right back on Louis Live.
Okay, sure.
Don't go
ahead.
Anywhere. Don't take a commercial.
Okay, we definitely will. We'll stay here, and when Jim Jim comes back, since we like to discuss the business side with Jim Williams, probably go with.
Hello.
Hi, Jim.
I'm back.
Okay, great.
I apologize.
No
I was
problem.
on with Anita Marks from New York, and she says hello.
Oh, okay. We say hi to Anita as well. It's great to be in touch.
I will. Anita, for those who are Giants fans, Anita is the pre-halftime, post-game host of the Giants broadcast on WFAN in New York, and also of a number of Giants radio and television shows in the greater New York area. So.
Yeah, Anita does a great job with the WFAN and wonderful stuff out there. Now, my first question for today's show we were figuring out where Peyton Manning's going to go, and then all of a sudden, one of his favorite targets, Reggie Wayne, decided to stay with the Colts. Now, why would he decide to do that? Peyton Manning's gone. A lot of the players are gone. Why would Wayne stay in Indianapolis?
I think Wayne would stay in Indianapolis because he's comfortable in Indianapolis. I think that there's a lot of misinformation floating around here that Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne was a package deal. If you got Reggie Wayne, you get Peyton Manning. There's none of that. Peyton is making this decision firmly based on what he thinks is in the best interest of Peyton Manning. And this is a business decision, and I think Reggie Wayne signed with the Colts purely because he felt that he would like to be, there with Andrew Luck and see how that whole situation works. He's got a good, comfortable relationship with the Colts brass, and frankly, they paid him, a good bit of money to stay.
All right, and going to Peyton Manning, when we spoke last week, the main candidates, if you will, to win the Peyton Manning sweepstakes, the Dolphins, the Cardinals were there, Redskins were talking about, and then this past week, the Broncos make a strong push, even though they have Tim Tebow, and they came off a season where they won a playoff game. What exactly are the Broncos thinking? They're kind of rolling the dice, if you will, because if they don't get Peyton Manning, they will then have to go back to Tim Tebow, who is their second choice at this point. So what do you see happening in Denver, and why are they pushing so hard for Peyton Manning?
I think they're pushing so hard for Peyton Manning because they think they're close to a Super Bowl. They think that, John Elway believes that Peyton Manning is the kind of quarterback that can take them, to the next level and get them to, the Super Bowl. He made a very strong case for them to have him on the side, and the part of the situation was he could then mentor Tim Tebow, and that was the way he couched it. If you were talking about any other player in football other than Tim Tebow, that probably would get to the point where the agent would be on the phone demanding a trade. But it's not. It's has the ability to understand what's going on, and Tim, I'm sure would like to have the vote of confidence of John Elway, but then again, I think that he's also realistic enough to realize that if Peyton Manning were there, and Peyton Manning is a great mentor, that having Peyton Manning there to help him certainly wouldn't be a disservice to him. So I think that Tim probably is quite comfortable with the idea of Peyton coming in, and if he were to come, he would benefit from his ability to teach him what to do, and if he doesn't, well then it'll be up to John Elway to figure that out. I still think that the Broncos and the Cardinals are the two best fits for him. I don't think it's going to be Miami, and I do think, though, this whole thing with Tennessee is very intriguing. It was kind of a last-minute thing, and of course, he went to school at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and the idea of Peyton being on the Tennessee team, the Titans, with the opportunity of playing the Colts twice a year is somewhat intriguing to me. I don't think he's going there, but it really would be a very interesting situation from a fan standpoint to see the Titans with Peyton Manning at quarterback and playing the Colts twice a year.
I'll tell you, though, as a Cardinals fan, again, we will certainly welcome him. I've said it before. I'll say it again. He can come, pass to Larry Fitzgerald. That would be a lot of fun. And,
I really think I honestly think that there's a very good chance that's going to happen. He loves Ken Wisenhunt. And like I said, I do believe he's not going to Tennessee. But, from that situation where you sit there and go, wouldn't that be delightful to see Peyton Manning face the Colts twice a year, but I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he would do that to the Colts fans, and I think that really it's a two-horse race, and I think the Cardinals are ahead of the Broncos, but I think it'll be fun to see how it ends up, and I don't think people are going to have to wait very long to see what's going on, because Kevin Kolb on Friday has that $7 million kicker for his for his extension contract involved, and I think that if they can get Peyton Manning, they'll probably either deal Kevin Kolb or I don't think they'll cut him, but they'll probably end up trading him.
And again, no disrespect to Kevin Kolb, but he's not Peyton Manning, and that's what it has to be. Again, as a Cardinals fan, I definitely want that to happen and be very excited about it. And also, I think
Kevin Kolb would tell you he's not Peyton Manning.
Right, Kevin Kolb's like, I understand. The whole concept with back to Tim Tebow, I think if there's one player in the NFL that could take this, that he doesn't necessarily have the vote of confidence, it's probably Tim Tebow. He's definitely a player's player. He thinks about the team first, so I think he'll be able to handle it. But like you said, you think that with most players, the agent's on the phone with the team saying, hey, you cross the line, you got to deal them.
Well, I think that, if you're Kevin Kolb, you just came off your year, you're trying to show the Cardinals, they traded for you. You're our guy. You brought me in here. If you recall, being a Cardinals fan, they were very excited about getting Kevin Kolb.
Yep.
The fans were excited. Everybody was, pumped, and, they really liked the idea of getting Kevin. And so all of a sudden, Peyton Manning's out there, and so Kevin Kolb is suddenly going from the guy who was going to lead the Cardinals, hopefully, to the playoffs, to the guy who, oh, by the way, might get cut or possibly have to restructure his contract or figure out what are we going to do with this, this payment situation. You don't have that situation in Miami because there really isn't, much of a quarterback situation down there. And the same goes for Tennessee, because they have Matt Hasselbeck, who did a very good job for Tennessee last season and almost got them into the playoffs. Really the only guy who is the incumbent, other than, as I say, the Kevin Kolb situation, is Tim. And because Tim is such a centered kid, he probably, as we both said, would welcome the opportunity to work with Peyton. I'm not so sure that's the case, given the fact that Kevin was behind, Michael Vick in Philadelphia, and bided his time and finally got the opportunity to become a starting quarterback, only to stand back and wait. And if you bring in Peyton Manning, Peyton Manning, again, the only opportunity that might be a problem for Peyton, of course, is if indeed his injury is not healed. If that's a problem, well then, you've got Kevin Kolb in the back, but you've got a Kevin Kolb who might be less than excited about what's going on around him.
Well, I'll tell you, someone who is excited is Calvin Johnson. He becomes the league's highest paid wide receiver, 7 years, $132 million. Now, him and Larry Fitzgerald probably 1 and 1A as far as the best receiver, so I understand him being the highest paid wide receiver. I don't know about this contract. What are your thoughts? I believe he is getting paid more than Matthew Stafford, who's the quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. So this deal, is this what the Lions had to do to keep Calvin Johnson in Detroit?
Probably. What was the guaranteed money?
The guarantee I'm looking at right now.
Because the 107 is meaningless.
Right.
It's a cap problem, but it's what the guaranteed money is.
Right.
Did you see what the guaranteed cash was on that deal? I can't remember off the top of my head what it was.
Let's see. I don't see it right here, but
it's in the $25 million range.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. Yeah. So that sounds about right. So, you think that was then the smart decision for the Lions to give Calvin Johnson that money?
Yeah, because the length of the contract and the number, as you all, as I think most football fans know, is really kind of a cap situation. You know, you look at it and you say, okay, it's a 7-year, $107 million contract. But what really boils down to is how much of the money is guaranteed. And so that comes in what is, usually the signing bonus. And if it was $25 million. It might have been more than that, a little bit more than that. Then yeah, I mean, I don't think. Look, Matthew Stafford has to throw the ball to somebody. I don't think Matthew Stafford is upset that they gave him that kind of cash, because you want to take care of your wide receivers, and when when Matthews contract's up, I'm sure that the Lions will take care of him.
Yeah, I mean, he threw over 5,000 yards last season, and Calvin Johnson's a big reason for that. So that's a great point. Happy to have his best target on the team and probably the best target in the NFL.
Hi, Jim. This is Rafael. How you doing out there?
I'm fine, and you?
Doing very good. Doing very good. Just wanted to talk some hoops with you, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Great. Let's start off, with all the March Madness going on. I feel like everyone's forgotten that the NBA is going on, and
are they playing?
They are. And you know what? The trade deadline's coming up. And
Carmelo wants traded.
Yeah. Can you? Well, we just read an article saying he's denying it. What do you think's going on? I mean, this was his perfect fit when he was in Denver. He couldn't wait to get out, and now suddenly. They had that winning streak when Lynn came on. Now they've, I think, lost 6 in a row. What do you think about it? You think Carmelo...
Well, most of that winning streak was without him.
Exactly. Very good point. It was without him. And
he only contributed to 2 of the wins in that 6-game winning streak.
Right. What are your thoughts, though, on... First of all, do you think the Knicks would trade him? And do you think he wants to be traded? What's your thoughts on the whole situation?
I think that, karma really is a son of a gun when it comes to the Knicks. The Knicks pretty much, if you recall, any Knicks fan knows that they gave away the farm to try to get Carmelo Anthony because, Carmelo wanted to come to play with Amari Stoudemire. I'm not so sure that Amari Stoudemire wants to play with Carmelo Anthony anymore. Mm-hmm. What might have been at one point in time a wonderful destination for a second or a third guy is now toxic, and so bringing other people to the Knicks at this point in time is something that's going to be darn near impossible. So I don't think that the Knicks will trade Carmelo Anthony. I mean, because there's no way they're going to get value back for him. It's just not going to happen. What they're going to try to do is they're going to try to, make him happy in whatever way that can be done. I have no idea how that's going to happen, but somebody's going to have to try. The Mike D'Antoni situation, is Mike D'Antoni going to be there? I don't think that they're going to pull the trigger on D'Antoni as quickly as one might think. The general manager and he are or the interim general manager and he are pretty tight. Jimmy Dolan, went out on a limb and brought him in there and, thought that was the whole thing. And remember that Amari Stoudemire came because of Mike D'Antoni. So, you've got a very, very messed up situation with the Knicks. If I'm a Knicks fan, I'm somewhat upset because I really have no idea in what direction they're going, because it doesn't look good, and it does. If I'm a player, a free agent, or even someone who's potentially getting traded there, I'm really not excited about this concept at the moment. Now, I'm fascinated with what is going to happen with Dwight Howard,
right,
in that whole situation. Is it true that that the agent and the ownership actually came to a situation where they said that, Dwight, if you want to sit down and after the season and talk to us about who you'd like to see as the general manager and the coach, then I think you've got a very interesting situation. I know that Stan Van Gundy of course, who is the coach, at least for the moment, of the Orlando Magic, was saying that he wished people would pay more attention to whether or not they won or lost as opposed to, where Dwight Howard was going. So there seems to be a bit of a rift going on down there. I'm not sure that, I don't think that Dwight is involved in that, and I don't think that D'Antoni in any way meant that, that Dwight is not trying his best to win, because that doesn't seem to be the case, and he certainly hasn't shown to be that kind of a guy. But it's good. There's some craziness going on out there, and I think it's a very, very interesting circumstance in seeing what's going on. And I know that the Lakers and a number of teams right now are angling to try to figure out how to get themselves better as we get closer to the trade deadline, as you say, which is coming up soon.
Right, and just to touch back on this Knicks team, you look at it on paper, with the addition of Jeremy Lin. Also, they got J.R. Smith after he got back from China. They have Jared Jeffries, who's a great defender, former Hoosier. Steve Novak, who can shoot the three. Iman Shumpert, who's a very good player. Wilson. I mean, they have a lot of good players, and then let's not forget their superstars. So it's just kind of weird to see them struggling so much. I don't really understand it as a basketball fan. But anyway.
As we all know, look, you can have a lot of good players. Okay,
right.
You just have take a look at the Nuggets. All right, if you look at the Nuggets, they're a team. They play as a team. They win as a team. They may not be the best team in the West. They're not far from the best team in the West, but they're not a bad team.
Right.
The Knicks are a collection of guys who have potential to play, but there's not a team there. I mean, there's not a 1 through 5 situation where you sit there and go, "Oh, that's a great team I'm putting on the floor tonight." It's a combination of guys who are, mismatched in a number of different ways.
Very good point.
I would say that, that how that team was put together was still conceived from the beginning, and just, it's the template for taking and saying, I'm going to go out and get superstars and build my team around them. Well, they did. They went out and got the wrong two superstars to put together, and then got the wrong players to put with them.
Right, and
so no, I would have to disagree. I would say that, frankly, I don't think the Knicks are, I don't think the Knicks are a very talented team, nor do I particularly think that they have the players to make a team.
Very interesting point. I actually agree with you on this Denver team. I've always been a huge fan of Ty Lawson, a former North Carolina guard. He's playing really well this year. Also, George Karl, everything he's been through, all the cancer treatments, and he keeps coming back. I really respect him. I want to talk about this trade that's kind of been under the radar, but for me is a very, very intriguing, interesting trade. I'm talking about the Monte Ellis trade to Milwaukee for the Andrew Bogut trade. I look at this trade, and Bogut's a number one pick in the draft. He had that horrible, it gives me goosebumps to think about that injury he had with his elbow when he fell on it. I just was very shocked to see the Bucks it kind of is almost like they gave up on him. He's a very talented player. Brandon Jennings seems to be kind of the face of the team right now, even though he's kind of inconsistent. He had that big game to start his career, but then he kind of went down. Ellis, of course, is known across the league as a guy who can score, but not necessarily being a great team player. That's why the team hasn't really had that much success. He was also, you could say the face of that team. So this is kind of a big trade that no one's talking about. Who do you think wins? Who won this trade? Who is the winner from this trade?
Well, I think to an extent that they both got what they wanted out of it.
Okay.
So sometimes, you got a player on your team, and a lot of people were concerned about when the Bucks gave up Kevin Garnett, and it was clear that the team was never going to win a championship with Kevin Garnett. They just, they couldn't find the pieces to make that work. And they were smart enough at the time to realize, you know what, while we're still friends and before we become enemies of each other, why don't we ship Kevin out and give him a chance and send him to the Celtics and get what we need out of this, which is a number of draft picks and some players that will help us, hopefully, in the long run. And I think this was a situation where two teams saw needs that both had and that saw players that, for whatever reason, didn't necessarily fit what they needed. And I think that the trade that was made was a trade where if you really want, we all want to see it happen in any sport, a trade where both sides will, in the long term, benefit from this trade. And I think that's what they had, where you had two general managers who were smart enough to realize that they had players that would, that at the end of the day, the Bucks would benefit from this trade, and I just think from both sides, it was a trade where there was value for value, and everybody got what they needed out of it.
Okay, great analysis. We're on with Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner. We want to shift now. Well, I want to shift now. I got to talk about this because I'm a part Canadian. I have a Canadian passport. My mom's from Canada. I go to Toronto every summer to see the family. And big news out of the hockey world. Sidney Crosby will be playing later this week. Can you just kind of tell our listeners the significance of Crosby? He's been going with the stuff they thought was a concussion, then it was a neck problem. But just as a hockey fan, or really even a sports fan, in my opinion, it's really great to hear he's coming back. He's really the face of hockey. Amazing player. Pittsburgh's really missed him the last couple seasons. What do you think about his return?
Well, I think there's no question that having Sidney Crosby back in hockey is good on a number of levels. I don't care if he was the face of hockey. I don't care if he was even the best player on Pittsburgh. To have somebody who, had a head injury to suddenly, after all of the anguish and the hard work and the dedication that Sidney, went through, to finally get back and get cleared to play and to get back on the ice. And I hope it's not like it was earlier, where it was, a few games and then suddenly he was back into a situation where he couldn't play again. I would love to see Sidney come back, and I would love to see him be able to play for a very long time. He's a wonderful hockey player, and he certainly is a good ambassador for the sport. So by all means, I'd love to see Sidney back, and I think this is a very inspiring story. And frankly, the way it goes down could very well be, like the Peyton Manning situation. I mean, do we know if Sidney Crosby comes back and can play at the high level that he's capable of? I don't really think, obviously, no one can be off that long and come back and play at the level that Sidney Crosby is used to, but even having Sidney Crosby on the ice is certainly going to help the Penguins. There's no question about that.
Right, and actually when he came back from his last injury, when he was going through, he came back and played one amazing game. His first game, I think he had 2 goals and an assist. So, he's just, I can't say how much I respect him as a hockey fan and as a person who's been a fan of the Penguins for a while. Malkin's done a good job holding down the fort, but he's really missed Crosby. So if Sid the Kid is listening out there, we're wishing you to get better. We hope you're healthy, and we just really are looking forward to seeing you back on the ice.
It's a great new arena, by the way.
Yeah, I've not been there. What's so cool about it?
Well, it's just really amazing. The Igloo was very nice and very. It was the oldest building in the NHL, and the new building is just phenomenal. It's just a wonderful cathedral to the Penguins. I mean, it's like a Penguin shrine. It's a phenomenal building, and it's a great place to watch a hockey game. So, as a matter of fact, they're actually hosting the NCAA tournament tomorrow.
Right.
But it's a great facility, and it's a great place to watch a hockey game.
Well, Jim, we didn't think that we'd have you on and not talk some college basketball. Come on.
Hey, why not?
All right, so last night we've been talking about this on the show the past hour-ish. We had amazing games, Western Kentucky, BYU. Just quickly, what were your thoughts on those games? Did you even watch those games? A lot of people were like, number 16 seeds playing each other, who cares? Did you tune in for either games?
I watched both games, yeah.
Yeah, great games. Are you going to be tuning in tonight for the California game against USF?
Yeah, I went to USF, so I will definitely be cheering against the president's brother, who coaches the Cal team. No, I think all four of those games are meaningful games, and it's kind of tough because these are seeds who are going to not only have to play. In the case of Tuesday, they're going to have to play on Thursday, and tonight the guys who win are going to have to play on Friday. So, you don't really have a lot of time to get into it, but it is what it is, and so it does make for an interesting tournament. But remember that VCU came out of this foursome last year and made it to the Final Four.
Right. Very
so it is possible that some talented teams can get hot and can play. And really, I mean, if you look at those two games last night, both of them were phenomenal games and were entertaining games and was pretty much what this whole tournament is all about.
Right, and Stan Heath has done a very amazing job at USF. Especially being in the Big East this year, 9 teams coming out of the Big East. I believe they finished, correct me if I'm wrong, 12-6 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Very, very good record. Especially, it's just, it's also funny to look at this bracket and see that the Big East has 9 teams, and out of those 9 teams, it does not include Pitt or Villanova. It's just, to me, that's kind of the weird, because they've been in every year the past 5, 6, 7 years.
I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't see West Virginia as being a tournament.
Yeah, very weird.
I don't see how they got in, but it's. I really felt Drexel was very much more deserving of that than I mean the big. Come on, I mean they had a. West Virginia had I think it was 9-9 in the conference,
they finished
if I'm not
500.
mistaken.
Yeah.
And they didn't win 20 games.
No.
And so I'm like, this is, come on, Drexel. I think Drexel really was the only argument you had. I think pretty much this is one of the largest mid-major fields I think we've had in the tournament in a very long time.
Yes, I think since 2004, the most mid-majors. And as you were saying, anyway, let's move on to something more interesting. Big news out of Syracuse today. Fab Melo is ineligible for the NCAA tournament. Before you give your thoughts, I just want to give mine, and I just want to hear what you think. I look at this as it definitely hurts Syracuse. It really does. He's led the Big East in blocks this year. People say he's most improved player in the Big East. Maybe not. Maybe in the country, even compared to last year, he barely played. Couldn't stay on the floor with all the foul trouble. But I look at the Syracuse team, and I really believe that they can be okay without him. I know he's their main big man, but this team has so many good players, and I mean, just so many talented players. Chris Joseph, CJ. There's a million to name, and I don't know. I know it's going to hurt them, but I look at their region. I don't even think it's the hardest region. Besides Ohio State, Vanderbilt's good, but you really never know what you're going to get from them. Kansas State. Also, they had a decent year. I think they were a couple games over 500, the Big 12. Do you think that that Fab Melo being out's really going to ruin their chances?
I've always liked Jim Boeheim as a coach. I think that he is very good at making adjustments and seizing things when things are getting out of hand. He has this way of making sure that things get right. So I think that Syracuse, I'm not going to say they're all right, because you can't lose
a big man.
You can't lose what Melo brought to your team and not feel it. I mean, that's going to happen. I would say, here's the problem. If if Vanderbilt or Kansas State, both of them are capable of beating Syracuse.
Okay.
Because of their, and I say capable, I'm not saying they're beating them, I'm saying they're capable of beating them. Because they are phenomenal at pouring in the threes. I mean, they rain
Vanderbilt,
threes.
I think, the top three
and they're
in the
good
country.
at it. Now, does that mean the team that I would worry about on that side of the draw is Ohio State, because
Absolutely.
Ohio State physically is, you need Melo when you play Ohio State, because
Solinger.
Ohio State's front line is big and they're physical.
Right.
And I think that's where, I would be concerned. But what losing Melo to Syracuse does, it takes them from what I would consider a 1 seed and makes them probably a 2 or a 3 seed.
Okay.
Which simply just means that they're not going to have to play more precise games, is what, when you got a guy like Melo, if you make a mistake, he's there to clean it up. You can't make a mistake with Melo not being there and have somebody else clean it up, because they won't. And so all that means is Syracuse is going to have to play for more precise basketball. Now, all that being said, as I said before, if you've got a coach like Jim Boeheim who has been to this dance many times before and understands how it works, I think that's your that definitely is your ace in the hole. You have a Boeheim who knows when to call the right timeout, who knows when to make the right substitution, who understands all of that. So I think that certainly bodes well for them. So I think that, does it hurt Syracuse? Absolutely, it hurts Syracuse.
Yeah.
But does it mean that they're on the way out? No, it just means they're a little more vulnerable than they would have been had they had Melo in there.
Okay, and I just want to talk about, as you said, this Ohio State team, in my opinion, is incredibly under the radar. They're a 2 seed, which is obvious. I mean, they're not that under the radar, but they have Big Ten.
I was going to ask you, how does a 2 seed get under the radar?
No, but just no one's really talked about them that much.
Well, they would have been a 1 if they'd have beaten Michigan State.
Right, but
I don't think there's any question about that.
They beat them in Michigan State the week,
right,
a couple weeks before that, in a buzzer beater by William Buford, who I think is probably the most underrated player in the country. A lot of people don't know his name, but I look at Ohio State and I think without him, they're not as good of a team. They have Aaron Kraft, who was the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten. We obviously know about Solinger, but the emergence of Deshaun Thomas, who's a sophomore this year, who is from Indiana, and Indiana tried to recruit him. They couldn't get him. He had a couple games this year where he scored 30 points. He's a very, very good player. This team looks like they're built for the tournament. They have good guard play, good inside play. They can shoot the 3 with Buford. Do you think that they can make a Final Four run, or even maybe championship? Or what are your thoughts on this Ohio State team?
I think Ohio State certainly they've got the talent to make the Final Four. They've got the talent to make it all the way to win the tournament.
Okay.
I think if I were concerned about them, if I were, my only concern about them would be that they have had lapses of consistency at times in this season, and there's not a team in the tournament that hasn't had
exactly.
lapses
We've been talking about that. A lot of the Baylor, just a lot of teams, Wisconsin especially. That Montana-Wisconsin game is very intriguing to a lot of people.
But in my column that came out on Tuesday, in conversation with Jim Nance, Nance said that the beauty of this, and I also talked to Marv Albert about it, the beauty of this is that you don't have to be, let's say you're Kansas State playing Ohio State, or you're Vanderbilt playing against Syracuse. You may not beat them, 9 out of 10 times, okay? But you only have to beat them once, and that's the way this tournament is
I love
crafted.
It. Yeah, it's the best.
This tournament is crafted like the 7th game of the World Series,
every game,
or the 7th game of the Stanley Cup hockey playoffs. I mean, you have to play 6 good games. You can't have a bad night. If you have a bad night in this tournament, you're out. And that's no matter how good you are or how bad you are. I mean, so, that's you're playing on the razor's edge coming into the tournament. So that's what makes it so enjoyable and so precarious on so many levels, is that you have to really get, if you get out to a bad start, like, what happened to BYU last night, and they got behind. I think they were down 25 points.
Yeah, 25.
And, it really looked bad. But, they stuck with it, and they realized, wait a minute, we're better than this team. We can beat this team. And they stayed with their they stayed with the core group, and things, went well. And if you know anything about BYU, you do know that the guys that are playing on BYU are older than most of the kids that were playing on the other side. So they're a lot more mature.
Yeah.
And I think that boded well for them in their attempts to get back, because part of BYU coming back last night was the fact, that they were just, Iona was just, running up and down the floor doing some of the stupidest things I've seen players do. They were taking wild shots when they didn't have to, and they were, making, instead of making 2 passes, they were trying to make 3 passes, and it was just, it just didn't seem conceivable that, you could have a 25-point lead and literally hand the ball away, and that's not taking anything away from BYU. It's just that, anybody who watches basketball or any sport realizes that if you're 25 points behind, somebody on the other side's got to help you get back in the game.
Right,
and
that Iona team,
Iona did everything humanly possible to help them get back in the game. That doesn't take anything away from BYU's win. It's just a matter of fact. So, that's what makes this thing fun. I mean, as I said before, you only have to be good one night. And if you're good enough one night to beat the opposing team, then, they're, no matter how good they are, whether they're Ohio State, whether they're Syracuse, whether they're Kansas, whether they're, Kentucky, they can be out of this tournament. We've seen number 2 seeds leave this tournament before. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. I'm talking in the first round.
And also, it's kind of a cool story about the whole Brandon Davies from BYU. He got kicked off the team last year for that whole scandal, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it was really great to see him back on and playing well, and showing, that he can bounce back from all that, because it was very hard on him to have to watch his team, especially when they had Jimmer. And they had such a good team. They made the Sweet 16 without him. Who knows what would have happened if he was playing. So it was really good to see him on. And on the other side, you look at this Iona team, and they have a couple of guys who are potential NBA players. Their point guard, I can't remember his name right now, but he had, in the first half, I watched the game. In the first half, he had some amazing passes. He shot the ball very well. And it's just kind of was sad to see this Iona team lose, because they were a pretty cool story. A small school close to New York. They have a couple of NBA players. It was just a very cool story, a very good game. The cool part about the first game, the Western Kentucky game, is now Western Kentucky will be facing Kentucky in Louisville, which should be really fun to watch. And, of course, Western Kentucky was under 500 this year, and they actually had a new coach in the middle of the season. And Western Kentucky's has been a pretty good mid-major the last couple of years. They had Courtney Lee, who is in the NBA, who plays on the Magic now, I believe, or the Rockets. I think the Magic. So really great night last night. Hopefully an even better night tonight. I don't even know how that's possible, how they can top it off from last night.
One of the great things is they definitely are capable of. I mean, tonight something's going to happen. We all know it. Right. We don't know what it is yet, but we all know it's going to happen. And it's funny because I know Jimmy Pathos, who coaches Loyola of Baltimore.
They had an article on him on Yahoo
today. They are
today.
playing against Ohio State tonight. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy has some kids on this Loyola team who've transferred over from other schools, and it's kind of a team that you look at and go, well, who are they and where did they come from, but they're not a bad basketball team. And I'm not saying that they're going to beat Ohio State, but I will tell you that Jimmy Pathos is one heck of a coach, and I do believe it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That I believe they'll give them an entertaining game. Whether I don't think they'll beat them, but I think it'll be a very, very entertaining game. And I think that's all you really want. I mean,
right.
you want to see. I mean, look at how many times we've seen during this tournament in history where a Duke gets scared in that early game, or where Syracuse or a 1 or a 2 seed gets down to that last 3 or 4 minutes, and they're sitting there going, "Who are these guys, and how are they still here?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
This question, I've always been a fan of women's hoops. My uncle is from close to Storrs, Connecticut, so I have that connection to UConn. It'd be nice to talk women's hoops with you for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Great. So Baylor's the number 1 seed, Stanford's the number 1 seed, UConn's the number 1 seed, and I think Tennessee is the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously Baylor is led by Brittany Griner, who people are saying might be one of the best college players of all time. She's still a junior, so she has another year left. She's averaging 23 points. I think something like 5 blocks a game. She's capable of scoring 40 points. Last year they lost to Texas A&M in the Elite Eight, which really was difficult for her. UConn this year lost 4 games. People are freaking out in Storrs because they're not used to that. But Tennessee also has lost a few games, and some games by a lot, actually. They got blown out one game, which is not good for Pat Summitt. And Stanford's, kind of been in the Final Four, I think, the last 3 years, but hasn't been able to win a championship. So we have a lot of really good headlines this year for the tournament. Could you just give us your thoughts? Again, maybe just one question about who do you see going to the championship game, and just tell us what you think about the women's tournament this year.
Well, I really think this is Baylor's to lose.
Right. Absolutely.
They really are mad that that they had their that they had that hiccup last time around. And honestly, I've seen them play a number of times, and I'm one of the few people that actually fills out a women's bracket.
Me too, Jim. Me too.
So I actually have to do that later today. And I do believe that there are teams that are very good teams, but unfortunately, this is one of those years where, again, Baylor is so much better than the other teams that you're going to have to bring your A game to beat Baylor, and they're going to have to play a little bit below their capabilities because this is a team on a mission. I mean, they really, are upset that they didn't get it last time around, and they're not going to let it happen again. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be beat, because there are teams out there, and we've all seen it. As you say, Texas A&M took them out last time.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to be an easy out for Baylor this time around.
Okay, and the coolest part about Baylor is they're 34-0, and if they win, they're going to be the first team ever in women's history, I believe, to be 40-0. So that's pretty cool. So
poor Gino and and the folks in Storrs are going to go into they're going to go into mourning.
As a UConn fan since way back in the days, late 90s. I guess that's not really way back in the days, but
I was going to say way back in the 90s. Huh?
Right. Well, for me it is, but I've always been.
I know.
loyal.
I'm just teasing.
They've had Sue Bird is Jewish. We're trying to get her on the show. She's a great player. Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore. They just always had such great players, and I just always loved Gino. But last question, Jim. We want to put you on the spot. We want to have you tell us who are your Final Fours and who's going to win the national championship in the men's bracket right now.
Final Four. Well, I think Kentucky will beat. Florida State in the championship game.
You have Florida State going to the championship game.
I do.
We can put that down officially.
Well, yeah, because in my mind, I mean, one of the things that Leonard Hamilton at Florida State has done is they're fearless.
Right.
This is a team that has beaten Duke twice and Carolina twice. They beat them during the regular season, and then they beat them back-to-back in the ACC tournament. They're a very athletic team, and we were talking about teams under the radar. I do believe they're an under the radar team.
Yeah.
And I don't, when you go through, if I'm not mistaken, the last team to win the ACC tournament, and do what FSU did was Maryland when they won the championship of back in, I think it was 2006. So I just have a feeling that this FSU team has a really I'm one of these people who tries to pick an outsider just for the heck of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really one of these people that likes to go chalk the whole way through. But I do believe that Calipari has a very good team in Kentucky, and they're right now. I would have to think that Kentucky. I mean, I watched the SEC, and it really was men and boys. I mean, it really was when it came to that situation, and I don't know, if that necessarily is a good thing because you don't know how well tested a Kentucky team is, but I do think that those are the teams. Those two will be playing for a national championship, and I do think that Kentucky will beat FSU.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel a lot better having Florida State in the Final Four, having them upset Syracuse in the Elite Eight. I don't have them going to the title game, but having the Final Four, so I feel better about that. Well, Jim, we got to go to commercial break, but we really appreciate the time. As always, we have your Final Four picks on record, so we'll be able to play them back for you if necessary. So
believe me, I've been embarrassed on an annual basis, so it's not something that I'm. It won't be the first time that it's happened.
I think we've all been embarrassed.
Yeah.
Every now and then it's that. Oh my God, my Final Four pick is out in the first or second round. It does happen. So
my problem is my bracket ends up, in 3 different newspapers and on radio. So both my men and women's brackets. So it's impossible to hide from it.
Yeah, that would make it a little tougher. I don't envy that situation. But we do appreciate the time. We'll obviously keep track of everything in March Madness, and we'll have you on next week to talk more March Madness. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I look forward to it. And guys, when Carmelo Anthony is playing for the team in Tel Aviv. Why did I totally blew this whole? I had a whole line here and blew it. What's the top team there?
Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Maccabi Tel Aviv. Yes, that's where Carmelo will end up playing. My guess is he'll be very happy there, and that's where he'll be playing. But
we'll welcome him.
No, seriously, you're welcome.
Nice talking to you, Jim.
And he'll probably at that point say, as long as my coach is in D'Antoni, I'm happy here. But anyway,
well, whatever gets
guys,
him out.
I wish you the best. Have a great week. And actually, I'm still eating some Hamantaschen left over from Purim. So
nice.
Really
great.
It's always good to have it. Guys, enjoy. It's always fun being on the show because you guys are very entertaining. You're also very knowledgeable.
Thank you, Jim. We appreciate it. We'll speak to you next week.
Bye.
Bye, Jim.
Bye, guys.
All right, that was Jim Williams for the Washington Examiner. Yeah, that is probably kind of rough to fill out a bracket and
it's all over the media.
It's all over the media. So they definitely keep an eye and track on what you're doing and who you're picking. All right, we're going to take a break. Raphael, tell us who is on the other side.
We are going to be having Jeff Agus, who is right now works for the MLS as a technical director at competition. He's in the National Soccer Hall of Fame, which is really impressive. He's won 5 championships in the MLS. He's played in Europe. He was on the national team. He's Jewish, and we're very honored to have him on. It's going to be great. He's really one of the biggest people in the MLS, so it's going to be really great.
All right, so that's on the other side. You're listening to Louis Live in Israel, sportsradio.com.
You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Body and Soul Gym in the heart of Talpiot. Great machines, excellent staff,
and wonderful classes such as Pilates, yoga, and kickboxing. Give them a call at 02-678-8861. Once again, that's 02-678-8861. www.body-soul.co.il. Once again, that's www.body-soul.co.il. That's Body and Soul in the heart of Tapio, which is great for your body and your soul.
You're already using a credit card every day. Why not feel good every time you make a purchase? When using the HAS Advantage Support Israel Visa card, a percentage of each purchase you make will be donated to your choice of 24 Israeli-based charities, while still earning a reward point for every dollar spent. But wait, these rewards are even better than the standard rewards you get, especially when using them towards Israel travel, with the best conversion rate on El Al's Matmeed Frequent Flyer program. Earn double points at some of your favorite supermarkets and restaurants in the U.S., as well as discounts all over Israel. If you love traveling and supporting Israel, HAS Advantage is the card for you. Just give us a call toll-free at 1-866-6-ISRAEL. Sign up right now with the code ISR10 to earn 2,500 bonus points. That's 1-866-647-7235. HAS Advantage. Earn rewards. Support Israel. Offer valid for U.S. citizens only. Terms and conditions do apply. When dialing from within Israel, please dial 1-800-200-818.
Israel Sports Dynamics specializes in football consulting, equipment, uniforms, and more. Great brands such as Nike, Russell Athletics, Shutt Sports Products, and many more. Just one call away. With over 30 years coaching experience with university and professional athletes, Harry Hill, owner of ISD, can advise you for all your sports needs. Call 054-581-3248. That's 054-581-3248, or visit our website at www.isdisrael.com. If that's not easy enough, click on the ISD banner on the Israel Sports Radio website and be part of the game.
Are you tired of paying for expensive gym memberships that you don't use? Are you frustrated by not seeing results? It's time for the X1. Israel Gym Systems is proud to launch the X1 suspension and bodyweight training system. Lose weight, build muscle, improve balance, coordination, and flexibility. With your purchase of the X1, you'll receive a free membership to IsraelGym.com and access to our archives of videos and exercise plans. Sign up today at www.IsraelGym.com and get ready for the new you. Israel Gym X1. Higia Hazman.
DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJ Venom, DJing parties throughout Israel, birthday parties, weddings, club events, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, and much more. You pick the type of music and DJ Venom will turn your event into the party of the year. Available Sunday through Thursday. Call 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com. That's 052-952-6506 or email djvenom1984@yahoo.com.
Jeff.
Book your party.
Hello.
Hi, Jeff. This is Ari Louis with Israel Sports Radio. You're on Louis Live right now. How you doing out there?
Good, Artie. How are you?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to have on the technical director of the MLS. And my first question for you is, you're in the Hall of Fame, and anytime you're in a Hall of Fame in any sport, certainly an honor. When you began your career, was that one of your goals, to make it to the Hall of Fame of your sport?
I don't think so. I don't think any player who is inducted into the Hall of Fame in any sport, I think, sets out their career to travel that way. I think you're just trying to perform at your best, game in and game out, and I think that's more or less the icing on the cake.
Okay, hi Jeff. This is Raphael. We just want to remind our listeners we're on with Jeff Agus right now, the MLS Technical Director of Competition. I just wanted to talk to you. I really looked at your bio, looked at your career. It's very, very interesting. You were a soccer player in the pre-MLS era. You played for the Maryland Bays and the Dallas Sidekicks, which is an indoor league, and the Los Angeles Salsa. Can you tell us what it was like to be in those leagues before the MLS was formed? What were the differences? Which one did you like more? Just what did you think about the pre-MLS era?
That's a good question. Before MLS, players tried to scrape and claw their way through, just being a professional. And I grew up in the old NASL where, New York Cosmos and where I was living in Dallas, we had the Dallas Tornado, and so I was able to see a lot of those games and see a very high level of play. Once the NASL folded in the early 80s, there wasn't a lot of professional soccer. Most of the players who were the elite players were having to go abroad, and there were very, very few of the American players being able to get into top teams in any country. So when I came out of college, there wasn't a lot of options, and the first year I came out, I played indoor for Dallas. There wasn't a professional outdoor Division I league as such. And as you mentioned, I played with the various other teams trying to just scrape together a career. And fortunately, we were awarded the World Cup in '94, which led to the creation of Major League Soccer. And I think players now have a vehicle and a way to have a good career as a professional. And so there's a real stark contrast before MLS and post MLS.
Okay, great. I just want to kind of skip back to your college career. You were at University of Virginia, and your coach was actually Bruce Arena, it's just so cool as a big soccer buff. I remembered he was a college coach, just didn't remember where. And of course, Bruce Arena was the U.S. national team coach before he was replaced by Bradley. But what was it like playing in the University of Virginia under a future MLS coach?
Well, it was an honor. I mean, Bruce has obviously played an integral part of my career as a player. Again, I played with him at Virginia and went on to play with him professionally with DC United,
right,
and then with the national team. So obviously he's been a big part of my career and played a major role. When I was in college, I think Bruce was a guy who treated the players and treated the system like it was professional. So I always felt like I was in a professional environment, even in college. So it was I think a very beneficial experience being at Virginia for the 4 years.
Great. So we said you went to the University of Virginia. You did an amazing job there. You started playing in different leagues, just trying to do whatever you could to play soccer. And then you got a very interesting contract offer. You went to Germany. You were there for a little bit. You had 9 appearances in the league. Can you tell us what it's like from going to, obviously in Europe, we're in Israel, we're based in Europe where soccer is huge. What it was like going from these little teams in America to a team in Germany. What was it like for you, and how did you feel? What were the main differences between the clubs and all that?
Yeah, again, another good question. So after '94, after the World Cup, there was a 2-year period between the World Cup and MLS starting. So players were still trying to figure out where to play and how to get by. And I had an opportunity to play with a third division team called SV Wehen, W-E-H-E-N. Mm-hmm. What it really taught me was the business of the sport. It wasn't a very competitive team on the field, but it taught me the business of the sport in terms of how the quality and what goes into putting a team together, and just how interchangeable players are. And it really taught me that every day you have to earn your job in training. It's not when you're one of the top players in the United States, you can get by sometimes in training and just play well in games, but in Europe it's a daily fight for your position.
Right, and so you went there, you had a stint there, and then you came back to the MLS where you teamed up again with your college coach, Bruce Arena. You were at DC United for 4 years, or 5 years maybe. Is it 5 years?
5 years, correct.
You had 158 appearances, which is a lot for any club. Players usually get transferred or loaned. There's so much stuff that happens. So to stay with the team for that long and have that many appearances is very impressive. But what is more impressive is I believe you won 3 championships with the United in that 5-year span, which is really it's kind of a dynasty if you look at it. That's 3 championships in 5 years. It's kind of like the Spurs and basketball, or the Patriots in the early 2000s. So that's really cool. So how was it like being on a team that was expected every year to win the championship?
Well, it was a privilege to be part of that team and that club at the time. I mean, it was. I think I was very lucky to be part of a club that was very professional. I think Kevin Payne and Bruce Arena were the two guys who really put a lot into it and led the way. Were really the big stakeholders in that club. I think if you remember the first year of DC, or the people who do remember the first year of DC, we started the year 2-8, I believe, in the first 10 games, and there were a lot of questions, not just about the club, but about Bruce and the organization, and we were able to turn it around. But I think it's being around good people and a professional environment, and I think Kevin and Bruce really were a big part of the reason why we were able to win those 3 championships in the first 5 years.
Okay, and then you went to West Bromwich for a couple of, or maybe it was just you went there on loan, which is I'm sure was also really cool. They've had actually a pretty interesting season this year. They knocked off Chelsea earlier, or a couple weeks ago. So how was it like going to England for that short loan?
Well, it was really just a trial, and
Okay.
at the end of the trial, they wanted me to stay. We tried to work out a loan agreement, but I don't think the loan agreement ever went through. So, essentially, it was just a couple-week trial. So, it was very interesting to compete at that level. They were, I believe, in the old first or second division at that time. It was just as the Premier League's going on. So. It was interesting to see and test yourself against some of the better players in England, and to see what the coaching staff and the facilities were like. So it was more of an eye opener, again, from both a sporting and business side.
Right. Okay. Then after that, you came back and played for San Jose for 4 years, and then you finished your career with the Metro Stars. And all in all, you won 5 championships, which is amazing for anyone's career in any sport. 5 championships was great. So now we want to talk a bit also about, you had 134 appearances on the national team, which is one of the, I think it's in the top 5. I couldn't find a statistic for it. I think it's in the top 5 of all players ever capped. Can you just describe from your first appearance was in 1988 and your last was in 2003. Can you just talk about the development of the national team from that time to 2003? I'm sure our listeners would love to hear that.
Well, I don't think you have enough time to go through everything, because there was a lot of changes from that period. Look, it was an honor and a privilege to play for your country. I think any player will tell you that. But I saw the U.S. soccer go from I think what is very much an amateur type of setup to something that's very, very professional. And there were a lot of good people along the way. I won't start naming them because I know I'll be missing people, and I don't want to have somebody come back and say, "Well, you missed me here." What I would say is, when we first started out in 1988, players were just being brought into the national team. Bob Ganser, I believe, was the first person who brought me in, and I was in the team. It wasn't very regularly until about 91. Actually, I think it was Lothar Osiander who first brought me in, and then Bob Ganser brought me in the early 90s, and I really stuck with the team from 91 on to 2003. It was a great run, and again, an honor to play for your country, and we qualified for several World Cups. Obviously, the '90 World Cup, which I was very loosely a part of, but I wouldn't consider myself part of the team that qualified. But I was part of the team in '94, although I didn't make the final squad. I was in residency with the '94 team. I was part of the team in '98 all the way through the World Cup, and then 2002 as well. So. Was able to see the world and see different aspects, meet different people. So I think I got as much out of it, hopefully, as I gave to it.
Great. So now we're gonna rewind again, and we're gonna go back to your high school and college career where you participated in the Maccabi games.
Right.
Yeah. How is that for you to represent your country, not just as a country, but also as being a Jewish person from that country?
I'll be honest. When I first started, I believe it was the '85 Maccabi team, if I remember correctly. I'm maybe hazy with the dates, but I didn't know much about it, to be honest. And I had just somehow fallen into seeing the tryout for it, and thought it would be an interesting event, and wound up making the team. And I think I was 17 at the time when I made the team. The next person who was close to me was probably 10 years older than I was at the time. So it was a very, very, interesting experience. I met some very, very good people on that team. But what I really take most out of it was the experience in Israel and the competition and seeing the different teams and different countries and what it represented. And again, a very, very special time for me. 87 and then 89 was the second one.
Right. So great. So that's very, very cool to hear. So now we only have a couple minutes left on the show. So we just want to talk about your job right now. MLS, obviously we live in Israel, so the MLS isn't that big here. But the last couple of years, with the addition of Thierry Henry and David Beckham and, just a lot of players who start in the MLS shining in Europe, Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan's had some trials with Everton that have been actually pretty successful. Tim Howard, the list goes on. Tim Howard in Everton. I think Friedel is playing it for Tottenham, who's number 3 in the Premier League. So the league has really developed a lot of. Not only that, but I believe this is one of the coolest things about the MLS is that the Seattle franchise averages the most fans in any, I think, more than any NBA team, more than any MLB, it's something like 25,000 a game, which is crazy for soccer. And I know you guys just expanded to, I believe, Montreal. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, it's a real success story, I think, in the past 5 or 10 years of the league. Seattle actually averages around 36,000.
Oh, wow.
In general, our attendance overall the league outnumbers the NBA and the NHL in terms of average attendance. We only trail the NFL and Major League Baseball at this point. On the business side, a lot of really good success stories. We've expanded from 10 teams to 19 teams from 3 owners to 18 owners. We've developed a number of different stadiums. Most of the teams play in their own stadiums at this point. So a lot of really, really good things happening in the league. It's growing. We're only 17 years old. As you mentioned, we've got some real significant players in the league, such as David Beckham, Thierry Henry, Landon Donovan, and a number of good players coming up in players like Juan Agudelo, Breck Shea. So there's a lot of positive things happening in the league right now, and I think there's a real success story that's happening in the United States.
Okay, last question, and I've always wanted to ask a professional soccer or an ex-professional soccer player. Do players in America follow the Premier League or the German League or the Spanish League? I've just always wondered with the time difference and all that. I follow a lot of the guys on Twitter, and I see them talking about it. But let me ask specifically you. Do you right now follow the Premier League or the La Liga or any league like that?
Absolutely. We get a lot of the Premiership games on television. We get a lot of La Liga games. We get a lot of the German games. So, I probably follow more of Spain and England than I do of Germany, Italy, or France. So we certainly follow a lot of that. And I think a lot of our fans follow a number of other leagues as well. And we have people who are Man United fans and New York Red Bull fans. And so, like any other country who's got their own team, they also follow teams from outside of their country. I think the same is true here in this league.
Okay, so last question. Prediction, we want to put you on record. Man City or Man United? Who's going to win it?
God, that's a good one. I've got a lot of good friends at Man City right now, but Man United always find a way. I would edge it at City at this point.
Okay, thank you very, very much for coming on the show. It's really been great talking to you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
Okay, have a good day.
Go out there, Jeff. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's going to conclude our show for tonight. It was a great, great show. We had a lot of fun. Before we thank our guests for tonight's show, let's give a preview for tomorrow night's show, where we're going to have Tamir Goodman. He's been on the program before on Israel Sports Radio, so we'll catch up with Tamir. Tamir, as you remember, is the Jewish Jordan, and he'll be on at 4 o'clock. Of course, we'll have a special time tomorrow from 4 to 6 instead of 5 to 7 local time. So that's Tamir Goodman tomorrow. John Akers from the Basketball Times and Danny Adamek, and we're going to throw a couple surprises for tomorrow as well, because Peyton Manning get much closer to signing. As Jim Williams mentioned, the cutoff date for Kevin Kolb is Friday, so if the Cardinals want him, they basically have to get him by Friday. So that will probably swing things in either direction, whether he goes to the Denver Broncos, the Arizona Cardinals, or the Tennessee Titans. So tomorrow night's show is going to be a doozy. Tonight's was also a great one. I want to thank everybody that was involved. Clint Ari Carter, our southern correspondent for the United States, breaking down a little bit of everything in the South. The Atlanta Hawks, the Miami Heat, the Miami Marlins, the Miami Dolphins. Went on and on. Atlanta Falcons. It was great stuff. Jasmine Marcus from the Cornell Sun thinks North Carolina will win the whole thing in the bracket of March Madness. We have her picks on record, and we'll hold her to it. So that'll be a lot of fun. Jim Williams from the Washington Examiner, who also is one of the few people who will admit to filling out a women's bracket, and also has the dubious or not so dubious, kind of a tough spot of having all his picks on record in the media through several newspapers. So it's fun to catch up with Jim and get his take on Peyton Manning and March Madness, of course. And finally, our final guest, Jeff August, who is the technical director of Major League Soccer. Certainly a prestigious honor and a high position, and he has made it to the National Soccer Hall of Fame. So a great show as always, and stay tuned again tomorrow night. We'll be on at 4 p.m. and have a lot of fun. That's tomorrow night, but that's it for tonight. God bless and good night.